What's up, guys? My name's AG Hunter, and today we are going to be talking about TrustSwap, one of the hottest new crypto projects in the market right now. We're going to talk about what is TrustSwap, what does it do, and what are some of the things that you need to think about before deciding whether to include it in your crypto portfolio. Hey guys, my name's AG Hunter, and my goal is to provide you with quality analysis of new crypto projects to help you make better decisions about which investments to make for your crypto portfolio. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Also, if you have any questions on any of the content that I cover today, please don't hesitate to put a question in the comments below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. In this video, we're going to talk about TrustSwap, which is one of the newer crypto projects to hit the markets in 2020. My background is in mainstream finance and investment analysis, and one of the first things that I noticed when becoming involved with crypto was that it's really difficult to find decent quality analysis of new crypto projects. In this video, I'm going to take you through the TrustSwap project, what it is and what it does, and then I'm going to talk about some of the things that I think you need to consider before deciding whether to include this as an investment in your crypto portfolio. Before diving right in, I need to put the standard disclaimer in front of this that I'm not a financial advisor or an investment advisor. I'm certainly not your financial advisor, and I don't know anything about your circumstances. Therefore, I can't possibly comment on whether this project is appropriate for you. My intention with this video is to provide you with information that you can use to reach your own investment conclusions about whether this particular project is a good fit for your investment portfolio. I want to emphasize that all crypto projects are inherently speculative, and I would recommend that you only invest money that you can afford to lose, because there is no guarantee that any of these projects will be successful. Having got that out of the way, let's dive right in. TrustSwap's catchphrase on its website is decentralized finance made easy. It's a decentralized finance company that is all about developing technology to facilitate certain types of transactions. Most specifically, in this case, what they call time-released payments. As a first step, I would go so far as to say that it's almost condition-based payments, so facilitating smart contracts that enable you to make payments where the funds are only released once certain conditions are met. When you hear Jeff, the CEO, interviewed, he talks a lot about escrow and the problems with escrow. Without diving into the nitty-gritty of what exactly escrow is, it's essentially a situation where two parties want to engage in some form of transaction, but they don't want to release funds to each other until they're satisfied that all of the conditions of the contract are met. Traditionally, the way you would do this you would engage a third party known as an escrow provider who would hold those funds in escrow until such a time as all the conditions had been met. To use a really simple example, this might be where you want to purchase a car using Bitcoin and you don't want to release the funds to the guy selling the car until you're certain that the car is actually going to turn up in your driveway. So you give the funds to a third party known as the escrow provider, and then once both you and the seller are satisfied that everything is above board, then the car and the funds are transferred at that point. The problem with this is that escrow is an expensive process. It involves lawyers, accountants, bankers, and all the kinds of middlemen that cryptocurrency is intended to try and cut out. And TrustSwap are putting forward a solution that would be significantly cheaper to the contracting parties, as there is effectively no middleman, with the escrow services being provided by the smart contract that only executes once both parties are satisfied that all conditions have been met. What are the use cases? I think the easiest way to get your head around this is just to think about time-based or condition-based payments. So some of the use cases that TrustSwap show on their website include things like crypto subscriptions, which I know they're really keen to implement. They see this as a significant advancement in the adoption and mainstreaming of cryptocurrency. So this is a situation where you might want to make a regular payment to a particular service provider for a gaming application or potentially for an online course that you're doing. More commercial escrow services, such as I've already discussed, where you might have an ICO that wants to list and it wants to provide early investors tokens at a discounted rate in order to encourage investment in the project. But what they don't want is for those investors to immediately dump the tokens onto the market as soon as the currency lists. So you might put in place a contract where the investor agrees to buy a certain quantity of tokens, and those tokens are released in equal packets once per month over a 10-month period, which avoids the risk of a dump on the market as soon as the token is listed. A third use case is crypto wills. This is an example of a condition-based release of funds where I would agree to release all of my cryptocurrency to my spouse, for example, with the condition of release being that I had passed away. This might seem a little bit obscure, but I can assure you that once you start to get a bit older and you start to have families, things like wills and what's going to happen to my kids and my wife if I'm no longer here become pretty serious matters that you need to have solutions for. So I actually think this is one of their more interesting initiatives, as I think there's a real hole in the market as there's no one else out there providing this kind of service. It just depends on whether they can put it into an application that is user-friendly and that people are happy and comfortable, provides them with the security that they need. The next thing I want to look at is the team behind TrustSwap. I think it's really important to look at the teams behind these crypto projects because you can get a really good feel for the levels of experience and the likelihood of success that certain team members bring to a development team. So let's start with the CEO. He's a guy called Jeff Kurdikis. Hopefully I've pronounced that right. Apologies, Jeff, if you are listening. Not only is he behind TrustSwap, he's also behind the cryptocurrency social media platform Uptrend, which has had some success in the last 18 months. And he's also the host of a fairly long-running and popular crypto podcast called the Bitcoin and Crypto Podcast. He's the co-founder of Bitcademy, which is an online educational resource with Michael from Box Mining. If you've had any involvement in crypto or tried to do any research in the space, you'll know who Michael is. I think the things that Jeff has going for him is that he's been around, he's got a track record of success, he's got several currently successful projects up and running. And what I really like about Jeff, and this comes through really strongly when you listen to interviews that are done with him, is that he has a laser-like focus on customer experience. I think this is one of the biggest shortcomings of crypto projects generally. And I think there's a lot of projects out there that just are working on the assumption that if you're not smart enough to use their products, then they don't want you as customers. And I just think that's incredibly short-sighted as a business model. If you want wide-scale adoption of crypto, you have to have a seamless customer experience that makes people who currently see crypto as risky all of a sudden see it as mainstream. I think a real problem with a lot of crypto projects is that they are effectively closed ecosystems. They don't attract new users because they are too difficult to use, they are too obscure. They have a tribe of really dedicated and loyal followers, and that tribe might be 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 strong, but it's still a very small subset of the broader population that uses their products. I think to have a CEO who's so focused on making sure that the products that TrustSwap produces are easy for the consumer to use is just such an advantage in allowing them to bring these products to market. The only real issue I have with Jeff is that he's really busy. Like when you look at all of the things that he's got going on, he's got TrustSwap going on, he's still growing Uptrend, he's still running his podcast. I just feel like this is a guy that has a lot of balls in the air. And at the moment it's working and it looks like he's managing all of his commitments, but that is a potential point of friction and a potential point of risk. And I think it's a point of risk that's going to become a bit of a pattern as we talk about some of these other team members. The chief technical officer for this project is a guy named Adam Barlam. Like Jeff, he's got multiple projects up and running. You could look at this as a positive because he's got runs on the board. He's clearly got a lot of experience in this space. His other projects include Bravo Coin and Dbuzz. He's a pretty accomplished guy. It's really hard to tell exactly how involved with the project he is. He's listed as one of the co-founders, but if you look at his LinkedIn profile, there's very little mention of TrustSwap. He's clearly focused on these other projects pretty heavily. He's another guy that's got a lot of balls in the air is all I would say. But at face value, he's also got a lot of experience and he brings a lot to the team. The third of the three founding partners is the Chief Growth Officer, Joaquim Miro. Once again, hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Well, following on from the theme of the previous two, Joaquim seems to have a lot of stuff going on. He was involved with Uptrend for what looks like almost 2 years, so that's promising because he's worked with Jeff before. He's worked in crypto projects before, but he has his own projects on the go, including his own business. TrustSwap barely rates a mention on his LinkedIn profile. It's really hard to see how much of a priority he's putting on this project and how involved he is. So the common theme that comes through all of this is that you've got pretty accomplished and pretty successful people running the project, but they're also really, really busy. Jeff appears to be the only one who is dedicated to the team. Certainly that's the vibe that I get from looking at the stuff that I can see online. Is this a deal breaker? Probably not, but it's certainly something which I would keep an eye on. The next thing I'm going to talk about is tokenomics. It's not something I'm going to spend a huge amount of time on. There's more information in the white paper if you want to know more about this. It's a pretty standard looking coin. It has a certain amount of its currency burnt every time a transaction is minted. Therefore, you get a deflationary effect. It's nothing really out of the ordinary. One thing I did like, however, was the fact that more than 60% of the tokens were listed in the initial token listing. I really like this because it shows that it's truly decentralized. It's not uncommon to see coins list and only release 10, 15, 20% of their total market cap to the market, with the rest of the coins being retained in-house with the development team. This always leaves me feeling a little bit uncomfortable. It's like, why would you keep such a large portion back? What's the risk of a token dump driving down prices? It's just not a good look. So TrustSwap have avoided this, which I really like. There's still about 32% held in-house. It says in the white paper that 20% has been held back for developmental and administration expenses, which I think is pretty reasonable. And you would assume that the rest is tokens held by the founders, which is also pretty standard. So nothing that blows you away, nothing that really alarms me, like the fact that they've released the bulk of their coins to the market initially. So there's not this risk of a massive dump or some kind of centralized control of the network down the track, as you see with some coins. Some other metrics I like to look at is things like social media activity. TrustSwap's reasonably active. They've got a pretty active Telegram channel. They're on Twitter. They're on Discord. You can dive in there. You can have a look. You can ask questions. There's links to further information. I found their Telegram channel pretty useful, so certainly if you want to find out more, look them up that way. Some of the other metrics which I like to look at are a bit more problematic with a token that's so young. You can't really do too much analysis of blockchain transactions, market flows, looking at where tokens are going to and from, just because there isn't a history there. It's listed on multiple exchanges, but most of the action currently seems to be on Uniswap. I don't really have a problem with this. It's so new. It's unreasonable to think that they're going to be listed on all the big exchanges immediately. And I think this also leaves some room for some upside down the track, as I'll talk about shortly. What do I like about the project? I really like that it solves a real world problem. Even though things like escrow and wills can sound pretty boring, they are real world problems that real people are currently paying to solve. So the fact that TrustSwap is attempting to provide a more efficient, cost-effective solution via technology, I think is really exciting. I really like the focus on user experience. If you watch more of my videos, you'll see that that will be a common theme that's going to come through. I like that the problems that they're trying to solve are relatively simple. They are contractual issues, and that's exactly what smart contracts are designed to do. This is almost a perfect example of the kind of problem that smart contracts are designed to solve. I really like the level of wallet interoperability that they've got at such a young stage of the project. Their website lists a number of wallets such as MetaMask and a few others that they're already compatible with. I think this is pretty important given the nature of the solution they're trying to provide. So that's a really good thing to see. And another thing that I think is really positive, at least in the short term, is that they've got significant support from some influential people. Ivan on Tech is really big on this project. Michael from Box Mining is on their board of advisors. Lark Davis, who you might know as Crypto Lark, he has been spruiking this project pretty consistently. So certainly the buzz around at the moment is very, very positive. Finally, I really like the fact that it's a DeFi project. DeFi is the flavor of 2020. This firmly fits in the DeFi space. I think it's a growth area. I think they've got a great product, and I think they're well positioned to ride the wave. What don't I like? There's not a lot that I don't like about this project. As I've said, I don't like how thinly spread the team is. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it has the potential to be, so it certainly adds risk. I'm a little bit uncomfortable with how fast things are tracking. If you believe the white paper, this idea only came up on the 19th of June, and we're now looking at the 21st of August, which is less than 2 months later. It's listed. It's got a $100 million market cap. Like, it's happening really, really fast. Once again, that isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it has the potential to be. So certainly something to be aware of. And finally, the price. It's got a current market cap of around $100 million. Its fully diluted market cap is close to $150 million. It's grown from zero to a pretty significant market capitalization really, really quickly. This is great if you got in on the ground level and rode it all the way up, and it's not necessarily a problem if the team are able to follow through with the promises that they've made in the project. But this is not a micro-cap project. Even though it's only a month old, it's already moving into what you would usually consider to be a mid-cap size project. But in terms of things I don't like, that's pretty much it. I'll finish with some potential price drivers. The most immediate one is the mainnet launch, which should be happening almost any day now if they're on the timeline that's been put out in their white paper. Additional exchange listings is another one. They're only really listed on a few of the smaller exchanges now. To see them listed on the Binance or Bittrex or some of the bigger exchanges would definitely be price positive. Further spruiking by influencers would be a great one. As I said, they've got a lot of influencers on board, so further positive publicity of the project can only be good for price. And finally, the most obvious one is adoption of their products. If they can deliver on their promises, build out the technology, and then get people using it, then that will generate revenue, which will clearly drive price.